So you're getting ready to start your own game server, be this for 7 Days to Die, for Minecraft, insert game title here. But you don't know what hardware you want to get. Are you gonna custom build it yourself? Maybe use an old workstation, or just go all out and get a real server? There are benefits and drawbacks to every single approach, and we're gonna very briefly go over this. Don't worry, we'll get to the actual installation of the server in a minute. Now, here we have your typical custom computer. It's got a processor, a motherboard, there will be some amount of memory and, things that go inside it. This might not be the most cost-effective approach, but it will allow you to build exactly what you want, and that is the main benefit for this. Whether you want to build a server or just a gaming desktop that happens to run the game in the background for your friends to join. Regardless, that is the whole point. This one lets you build exactly what you want, but it might not be the most cost-effective. Moving on. This is an older workstation. These are pretty darn cheap these days. I picked this one up for 50 bucks. In fact, this is the exact same Precision 490 from one of my previous videos, where I upgraded the processor from a single one to dual processors, but that's besides the point. If you're interested, go check out that video. These can be some of the most cost-effective ways to get into running your own game server. Mostly because if you're running a dedicated server, you don't need a beefy graphics card. Something like this is more than enough. Anything that can output to a display is exactly what you need. So that's this one. But if you want not the most bang for your buck, but the best pre-built experience, you want to go for a real server. I've got one in there, and the main drawback for that is it is loud. Some of them can be pretty power hungry too. But if you have the right place to put it, like a rack, then that could be, and is what I did, the best choice for you. Now back to the workstation. This is what we are going to be using today. They are cheap, they are plentiful, and more or less will be perfect for whatever game that you want to run, provided you've got 4 or more cores. Now, the title of this video would lead you to believe that we are installing 7 Days to Die, and that is exactly what we're going to be doing. But first, some of the prerequisites. You need to have a hard drive. That's about it. Like 30 gigs will do. Higher is definitely better, but the one that we are going to be using today is 80 gigabytes, so you really don't need a lot of space. Just something with storage. A flash drive will do perfectly if you really want to go that route. You need at least 4 gigabytes of RAM to run the 7 Days to Die dedicated server. This is from experience. It seems, with 5 players, it seems to hover right around 3-ish gigabytes of usage, but it can spike up towards 4. Now when I bought this for $50, it had 8, so that would be perfect. The 7 Days to Die dedicated server, the one that we're going to be using at least, really scales well across processing cores. So the more, the better, and the faster those cores, the better. But at minimum, I'd say 2 gigahertz is probably the sweet spot. I have done it on a 1.4 gigahertz quad core, but it kind of sucked. Now this one, although it does have 2 separate processors, so it's not perfect, it has 4 total cores at 3 gigahertz. So it should be more than enough for what we need. So, let's get on to the insides, shall we? So, as I stated, when I first bought this it had 8 gigs of RAM, but I have upgraded it to 16, and it has the dual processors, totaling 4 cores. So what we're going to do is change what I have for a main hard drive. It's a 320 gigabyte Western Digital Blue, but I don't want to boot from that because it has my Windows installation on it, and I don't want to erase it either because it has my Windows installation on it. So that's what I've got this 80 gigabyte drive for. We're going to go ahead and slide this in. move over the SATA cable from the main drive to our new main drive, and that's that. Now we do need a graphics card. I mean, can't really there we go. Can't really see what I'm doing if I can't look at a display, so here we go. This is a 7470. It's not a very good graphics card, but again, it's more than enough for this task. So, make sure this is all in nice. Pop that back into place. And that is all the modification that we need to do to make this into our server, at least for physical aspects. Now on to installing the software. We are going to be using Linux, so no, don't leave, hold on, stay here. Don't worry, it's not that hard. We're going to be using something called CentOS, specifically CentOS 7. Let me pop open the DVD drive here and put this in. Now there are some real reasons why you want to use Linux over Windows. Now, the primary reason, and pretty much the only reason, is it doesn't use as much... Oh, I forgot to wipe the hard drive. Damn it. Anyway, let's restart this computer real quick and try and get it to boot from the CD instead of the hard drive. So, instead of using Windows, we're using Linux, and the reason is it doesn't use as many system resources. There's less overhead, which means... Is it F12? Okay, there we go. Which means more of your system, more of your CPU, more of your RAM is freed up for use by the server. That's what we want. Onboard or USB CD-ROM drive. I really hope the camera can see this. I don't have a way to capture the screen, unfortunately. So I sincerely apologize about that. But, anyway, hold on. Don't go running away screaming just yet. It isn't that hard, and I'll help walk you through it. So, I happen to prefer CentOS 7. And that is what we're going to be using today. However, it is absolutely not the only one that you can use, nor is it necessarily the best. It is simply what I'm familiar with. So, and there are other tutorials out there for different versions of Linux, a lot of them for Ubuntu, which is pretty user-friendly. But don't worry, I will walk you through this. I'm just hoping that it would have loaded faster than this, but it doesn't matter. The good thing about Linux is it is free. You can go to their website and download any version you want. They have a pretty good backlog of older versions if you don't want the new one, or if there's a feature you need that was removed, or compatibility with an older program. It's pretty good, pretty useful. So, anyway, we are using the NetInstall CD. The reason for that is I didn't have any spare DVDs. So, the network install version fits on a CD, so that's that. On a faster system, or if you're booting from a flash drive, which is the recommended action, it would have been in the actual installer by now. CentOS, and most other Linux versions, does have a graphical user interface, similar to Windows, but it is optional, not required, and we are not going to use it, because using the GUI, the graphical user interface, will consume more of those precious system resources that we want to preserve for the game server. Now, this is the main screen. The previous one was just choosing your keyboard layout and language. So here's what we need to do. First, make sure that your Ethernet network is turned on. Well, port, not network. It's connecting to the network. And make sure that it gets an IP address. Most of you home users will have no problem with this. It'll grab one automatically as long as it is connected to your network using an Ethernet cable. You can do this over Wi-Fi, although it isn't really recommended. Okay, now we need to select our hard drive. This 74.51 gigabyte hard drive is the main drive. It is an 80 gigabyte drive, but it turns into 74.1 once it's formatted. It loses a bit during the formatting, so we're going to make sure this one is selected. Now we are going to manually configure the partitioning because it isn't wiped. So we'll click Done, and it'll automatically pop up the partitioning. So, unknown. This is an ancient installation of Windows 7, probably pre-Service Pack. This is an old hard drive. We click the minus button to delete it. We are accepting this, yes. Now, click here to create the CentOS 7 partitions automatically. We don't really need to mess with any of this, so we are going to leave it as is. There are ways to optimize this, but an 80 gigabyte hard drive is way more than we need, so it doesn't matter if we optimize it. Done. Yep, accept the changes. Okay, installation source. It will be on the network, and it is mirror.centos.org/7/x86_64 for the 64-bit version. I'm going to leave this on the screen so you can see it and get that all written down. You don't have to click this. The URL refers to a mirror list. You don't need that. It'll automatically figure that out. And then we click Done. Now it's going to test the network connection. It's going to check the hard drive, make sure everything is good to go, and if it turns black like that, then you're good. Now, software selection. We want the minimal installation. This is command line only, which is exactly what we want since we want to preserve as much system resource as we can for the actual game server. However, I want to get some of the compatibility libraries as well, and that is it. Done. The reason we want the compatibility libraries is just in case you need to install something that requires older libraries for their compatibility. Begin installation. At this point, it's going to pop up. You don't have to create a user, and I am not going to, but I encourage you to do so. But we will not be using that user. This is only if you want someone else to be using your system at any point in time. So, root password. Pick something strong, very strong. If you open this server to the public, people are going to try and guess your root password. And if it's a crap password, you're going to get crapped on. So, I'm going to go ahead and pick a password. I encourage you to use one capital letter, a number, and a symbol. That usually throws people off, but make sure that you remember it. Done and done. If you don't choose a strong password, or sorry, let me rephrase that. If you choose a password that the system thinks isn't very strong, it will warn you, hey, this password isn't very strong. But you can override its warning, and if you click Done twice, it'll accept your lesser password. It does that sometimes for shorter passwords. I'm not really sure why. But anyway, we are going to let it install, and I will get back to you once we are ready to start working on the server itself. It's pretty easy and relatively quick. Don't worry. Alrighty, it is done installing and we are good to reboot. Normally I would skip past all of these things, but I want you guys to see it, so there's nothing that you can miss. The last thing I want to do is confuse anybody. Going to go ahead and take the CD out of the drive now and set it off to the side. Okay. Doesn't really matter, it'll automatically pick the best one. So, the problem with most Linux tutorials is they don't tell you everything you need to know. And by that I mean, they don't tell you everything you need to install. There are prerequisites to everything. But here we go. I'm going to make sure to try and tell you everything that you need. Now we're going to log in as root, so it's just root, R-O-O-T. And the password, it's not going to show up as you type. Don't worry if anybody's looking over your shoulder. Okay, first things first, make sure everything is updated. Now, I can't remember off the top of my head what it stands for, but we're going to invoke yum, Y-U-M, and we're going to tell it to update. It's like something user manager or something like that, but there should be a lot of updates because the version of net install that I've got on that CD is a bit old. We're going to tell it yes. It'll stop here every time, but in the future we're going to go around it stopping every time, and I'll show you how to do that. Boy, there are a lot of things that needed updating. Jeebus. Alrighty. Alright, now it wants to install them. We're going to tell it yes again, just with the letter Y. I'll tell you what, I will come back once this is done updating. Alright, it has finished updating. Now we are going to do the next part in the making sure everything's up to snuff. So we're going to go ahead and do yum again, but this time upgrade. Now, since we don't want to bother with pressing Y every single time that it asks us to, we're going to do space minus Y. Now that tells it that every time that it asks us yes or no, to answer yes. Don't do this if you don't necessarily know that that's what you want it to do. It shouldn't find anything, right? Okay. Now what we're going to do is install some programs that'll help us down the line. So in order to get those programs, we need to install a directory. Well, it's not really a directory, but that's kind of the best way I can describe it. CentOS has a list of packages that you can download and install, and in order for you to get other packages, you need to get these other lists. So we're going to install the EPEL-release. Yes. There we go. Now that it has installed this, it will know where to find some of the other programs that I want. CentOS comes with a program called Vim for text editing. I happen to prefer a different program, so I'm going to install that one. Yum, install nano -y, so I don't have to answer the question when it says, hey, do you want this? There it is. Alright, and there's one thing I forgot to do is yum update a second time, which checks to see if there's any updates for the EPEL release. No packages for update. That's good. Okay. So, we have Nano. Now we need something called Lynx. Yum install LINKS. Lynx. This is actually pretty cool. It's kind of like a web browser, but it's for the command line. Yes, we want it. And I'll show it to you real quick because it's just so neat. Just gotta wait for it to finish installing. And since there's not, 120 things to install, I'll let you see the whole process this time. Verifying. Okay. So, if I recall correctly, I just need to type in Lynx. Welcome to Lynx. Yep. Okay. Give it a moment to finish load. Oh, my camera's off center. Was it? No. Alright, there we go. I'm going to File, go to URL. Let's go to Google. www.google.com. Okay. And there we go. Now we can Google search things. This will come in handy later. But right now, we are going to File, Exit. We want to exit Lynx. There we go. Okay. So the next thing we need to install is called Screen. Yum install Screen. I can't remember if it's Screen or Screens. I think it's just Screen. Yep, it was. Okay. Now we want yum install HTOP. Now, much like Task Manager in Windows, Linux comes with a way to observe your system usage. It's called TOP. T-O-P. Now if you type that in and press enter, it shows this, which for inexperienced users doesn't really tell you much. It tells you how many tasks there are, how many are currently running and how many are in standby. There's their CPUs, and it's kind of hard to understand. So Control C to break it, clear to get that off my screen because it's dumb. HTOP is better. HTOP. Look at that. It has graphs, or not graphs, just bars that'll show you how much of your CPUs are being used instead of, well, even I don't really understand how TOP is used. I'm not a Linux bro. So, alright, F10 is quit. Okay, clear again. Now, on to the next thing. We're going to add a user specifically for the 7 Days to Die server. And how we do that is add user, so add user, one word, and we're going to name this user 7D2D for 7 Days to Die. Now we're going to set a password for this user, PASSWD 7D2D. If you don't want to name your 7 Days to Die user 7D2D, you don't have to. That is simply the way that I do it because it helps me remember that is what that user is for. Now we press enter and it will prompt us for a password. I recommend picking something equally as strong as your root password, but not the same. So we're gonna make one here. It'll ask you again. Alrighty. So, in order for you to let people connect to your server, you need to open up ports in the firewall. And that's pretty easy to do. So what we are going to do is firewall, Firewall -CMD to invoke the command line for the firewall, --zone equals public. This means for anything on an incoming connection, we're going to add port, which is --add -port, P-O-R-T, equals 26900 slash, it's a / TCP. Now you could leave it at that, but we want this to stay. We want this to be able to reboot our computer and not have to add this again, so we're going to do -- permanent. Okay. Now, we also need to add that port for the UDP protocol. To do that, it's the same command. But instead of typing all that out again, we're going to use a shortcut. If you press the up key, it pulls up the last command that you typed. So we're going to navigate over using the arrow keys to this TCP. Delete it and type in UDP. Enter. I tend to also do the 26901 for both of them as well. You don't have to, but when you start getting more players, you want more ports open. I don't actually know why, but it seems to help with performance when people are connecting. So now that we have those set, we need the firewall to reload to actually open those ports. To do that, it is firewall -CMD again, -- reload. Alrighty. Now we need some of the prerequisites for the server itself. These are libraries of a sort. So we're going to go back to yum install glibc.i686. We're going to do space and again libstdc++.i686. Now, this is something I didn't mention earlier, but if you want to install multiple programs at the same time, you can just do yum install and then all the programs that you want with spaces in between them. And since I don't want to press yes 100 million times, I'm going to do -y or -y. Whenever I say dash, that means minus. Alright, that should take but a moment. There we go. Now, we're going to change to our 7 days to die user. If you named yours differently, then type in your username that you created whenever I type in 7 days or 7D2D. SU, which will change our user, 7D2D. Okay. Now I'm effectively logged in as that user. CD, change directory, with the tilde, which will bring us up to the very top of the directory tree, which is very important. Do not forget to do that step. Now this one is kind of long, so I'm going to attempt to say this without stumbling over my words like I usually do. We need to use wget, which I think I might have forgotten to install. Exit. Did that bring me out? I think so. Yum. Did I install wget? I did not. Holy cow. That would have been embarrassing. Okay, back to 7 Days to Die. Okay. CD. There we go. You can tell who you're logged in as because it'll be at the very beginning. When I typed in exit, it brought me back to root, and when I changed the user to 7 Days to Die, it showed at the very beginning, before the @ sign. Okay, now for that long one. We're going to invoke wget, space, now we type in a very long URL. Here we go. https ... with 2 forward slashes, steam, STEAM, CDN, dash A dot AKAM AIHD dot net forward slash client forward slash installer. Oh, I fudged my letters there. Installer forward slash steam cmd underscore linux dot tar TAR dot GZ. Okay, that is good. That is kind of like downloading a zipped file. So now we need to unzip it. To do that, we need to type in TAR XF steam cmd underscore linux dot tar dot gz. Okay, it doesn't show any confirmation, but it did do it, don't worry. Okay, now we need to run steam cmd. So that is dot forward slash steam cmd dot sh. It's going to check for updates, and in this case we just installed it, so of course there's an update. Thanks, Steam. I should warn you, you're going to have to log into Steam. If you have the Steam Guard enabled, you're going to have to look at your email for that code, which should arrive. So what we're going to do is log in. My account name is Kitsep. It's going to ask me for my password, which I am not going to show you. Okay. Now I've got my cell phone here. I've got my Steam Guard code. Since this is a one-time code, I have no problem displaying it as H33, wait, no, it's 32 HV. Okay, make sure we are good. Good luck guessing my password. Okay. Now, back to the installation. Force underscore install underscore dir space dot forward slash 7d2d. You would do dot forward slash whatever username you chose if you decided not to name your 7 Days to Die user 7d2d. And the reason we're doing this is we don't want it installed under root. We want this to run as a separate user to give us another layer of security. Enter. Now, app underscore update space 294420 validate. I know it says update, but because there is no app on our computer yet, it's going to install it. Now this is going to take a while, so this is another time that I'm going to go ahead and turn off the camera and come back to it once it's done. Alright, it has finished installing. Now what we want to do is exit the Steam program. I believe you can type logout, exit, or quit. Okay, so we are back in the 7 Days to Die user. Let's type in ls, which is short for list, which will show you everything that is currently installed under the directory that you are in. We are looking for the server config.xml because we want to change a few things. I believe it is under the 7d2d subfolder, so we're just going to do cd 7d2d, and that will navigate us to the 7d2d subfolder. ls again. There it is, server config.xml. Here is where we are going to use the program Nano that I had you install earlier. So Nano server config.xml. Okay, now this looks pretty complicated, but it really isn't. We're going to use the arrow keys to navigate to line 5 where it says My Game Host. This is just the name of your server. In fact, all of the properties are listed here on the left. So we're going to go to My Game Host and just change it. For the moment, we're going to just call it test. Now, I want a password. So server password in the middle here. I'm going to go with let's go with 7d2d Linux. This is just for testing purposes. This isn't going to be a permanent server. Any of you trying to connect to this, unfortunately, won't be able to because I'm going to be wiping this after this video. This is just informative. So, on line 7, where it says max player count, change this to however many you want. I tend to leave mine at 8 because I don't have more than 5 people connecting at a time, for the most part. On my actual server I have it set to 32, but change this to however many people you want to connect at one time. Maximum is 32. For now at least. This may change in Alpha 17. And this video is coming out very shortly before the release of Alpha 17. But this will also work for Alpha 17, this install method. So, let's see. What next? Where's the description? Here we go. See where it says a 7 Days to Die server? This is the description. This pops up whenever someone connects to it. We're gonna call it butts and demonetized. Not that I monetize anything anyway. So, we will press Control X to exit, and it will ask us if we want to save it. We want to type Y for yes. It'll ask us the name of it. We do not want to change the name, so just press Enter. Alrighty, clear. Now, anytime that you want to update your server, you just have to go back into the Steam CMD and basically reinstall the game. Except, of course, it won't install it, it will update it. It's the same process as before. However, let's say you don't want to log in and manually update it every single time. Let's create an update script. So we're going to use nano again. Nano. Now we want to make sure that it's in this directory. So /home /7d2d /update _ 7d2d.txt. You can name this whatever you want, but that's what I'm going to name. So, log in. Username. Password. This is, of course, you would put in your username and password. Then, force _install _dir /7d2d. And just like before, app _update 294420. And now, quit. You press X again. Now you guys will say yes to save the file, but I will press N for no, because I don't actually want this here. And anytime that you want to run that, you just type cd tilde /steam cmd .sh plus run script space whatever you named it. So in our case it would have been update _7d2d.txt. That will run the script that we just made. That's still showing up there. Okay. Now it's time to actually run the server. Make sure we're in the right directory. So change directory or cd /home /7d2d /7d2d. Okay. Now let's make sure that we are. Okay. This is where all of the server data is installed. Now remember, I had you install the program Screen. Now we are going to use it. Screen dash lowercase d, the letter M, capital S, 7d2d ./start server.sh space dash config file, one word, equals server config.xml, and that is the configuration file that we just changed. I encourage you to look around that configuration file. Change some of the other values. You can change loot spawn, you can change how long the days are, you can change all kinds of things. Okay. The server is now running in the background. That's what Screen does, is it runs it in the background, so you can still do things. So what we are going to do is HTOP. Now we can see right there, 7 Days to Die server is currently running. That is good. It's using not a whole lot of our CPUs because no one's connected right now, and it's hovering at about 1.5 gigabytes out of the 16 gigs of RAM that we have. Now, let's connect to it. All I've done is pressed F10 to close HTOP. What we're going to do now is use Lynx, another program we installed earlier. Lynx, L-I-N-K-S. Yep, we're going to press Escape, File, go to URL, and once again, google.com, www.google.com. Now we're going to use the arrow keys to go down until we reach this part here. The line here. It's kind of hard to see, but it's blinking right underneath the line. Now we're gonna go, what is my IP? This is just a regular Google search. Google search. Alrighty. The reason we're doing this is although our computer gets an IP and we can use Linux to show the IP, that only shows the internal IP. In order for you to connect to it, you need to see the external IP. So 205.237.161.65. That is our public IP address. Let's connect to that and see if we can get into our 7 Days to Die server. So, since it is on my local network, let me close this. It'll be right up here at the top. It is test. There's the local IP address and the port. We're going to enter the password, which was 7D2D Linux. Submit. Normally, you would put in the public address of the server, but I don't do that because it was on my local network. But it looks like we're good to go. You can turn off the EAC as well. There's you don't have to have that on. But we will wait until this is initialized. This should happen the first time anybody connects, but after that, it's a quick connect. They don't have to redo everything. Also, this is the first time anybody's connecting to the server, so it has to do a lot more than it normally would. It doesn't actively build anything until someone logs in. Now I have HTOP running, and we can actually see that our CPU usage is spiking wildly. Not too much. It's very rarely getting over halfway, but that's the 4 cores working for you at 3 gigahertz. So once you actually log in, it'll normalize, much like it has now. And if I look over, yep, we have logged in. So there we go. Not bad at all. And that is how you install a 7 Days to Die dedicated server. This has been Matt from Low Spec Action Squad. Thanks for watching.